All right. It's so good to be with you. This is an important event today, I think. I thank all of you for attending and those who are here to speak and share with you today. Senator Vitter will be with us in a little bit, and Congressman Barletta, thank you for your participation and sharing your knowledge and expertise on these issues. Enforcing the law in the United States of any kind is tough. We provide a panoply of rights and privileges to people that come in contact with law enforcement, and just a few errors, a few loopholes in the procedure can make it virtually impossible, as these guys can say, to effectively do what they're asked to do. As these officers will tell you, this administration has aggressively defied federal law. We can have no confidence in promises of future law enforcement until the current constitutional rule of law is upheld. Like in 2007, the special interests were brought in. They've been engaged behind closed doors to help write a bill, while the law enforcement officers, the one given the duty to make sure the law is complied with, have been shut out, as has been the public interest and the interest of working Americans, in my view. Like 2007, this bill is amnesty before enforcement. It's immediate legality with a promise of enforcement. And the promises of enforcement in the future appear to be even weaker than they were in 2007. The day the bill passes, illegal immigrants will have the presumption of amnesty, and all Secretary Napolitano has to do is submit a vague plan in 6 months that may never get implemented. The bill's broad amnesty provisions include even those who pose a public safety threat, as our officers will explain. No border fence requirement is in this bill. It's not a requirement in the bill. You have not gotten the full story and a correct story on this issue. You will hear alarming facts straight from the source. No immigration bill should ever pass Congress that the law enforcement officers on the ground tell us won't work or can't be enforced. Senator Vitter, it's good to have you. If you'd like to share a few quick remarks, and Congressman Barletta, and we'll go straight to these gentlemen. We do have a time shortage.
Thank you so much, Jeff, and I'm very honored to join Jeff and the members of the House, and in particular the law enforcement leaders who are here. And our message is really simple and straightforward and basic but important. And it's this: we're very concerned that this bill is the same fundamentally flawed model from the past. It's an immediate amnesty with promises of enforcement. We've tried that model before. It's failed miserably before. And we all want to solve this problem, not continue it, not perpetuate it, certainly not grow it. And so we're fundamentally concerned that an immediate amnesty with promises of enforcement grows the problem. That's what happened in 1986. That was the model in the 1986 reform. And the promise then was, we'll just do this once, we'll solve the problem, never have to look back. Well, of course, we didn't solve the problem. We didn't merely continue or perpetuate the problem, we quadrupled the problem. What was 3 million illegal aliens then is 11 or 12 million today. And so let me just be clear. When I say immediate amnesty, that's because almost all of the illegals we're talking about at the front end get a new legal status. That happens before any enforcement is proved out, before anything is measured, before anything is assured. And that fundamental model has failed in the past. We're concerned it would fail again. And thanks again to all these law enforcement leaders in particular who are fighting that fight on the ground.
Thank you, David. Chris Crane is the president of the ICE Association, the ICE Officers Association. He's been dealing with these issues from some time, a former Marine, someone I've come to admire greatly. Chris, come share your thoughts.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Senator. Almost 1 month ago, we asked for a meeting with the Gang of Eight to discuss law enforcement concerns. They told us they weren't taking meetings, but they were meeting all along with the special interest and pro-amnesty interests. Finally, after public pressure grew, I got a late Monday night meeting with Senator Rubio the day before this almost 1,000-page bill was introduced. I raised my many public safety concerns and pleaded with them not to drop the bill until these public safety concerns from law enforcement were addressed. They dropped it anyway. This bill will put the public safety at risk without doubt. It fails on interior enforcement. It's amnesty first. Enforcement, perhaps never. Immigration agents have filed a lawsuit against DHS Secretary Janet Napolitano and ICE Director John Morton because both have refused to enforce the immigration laws enacted by Congress. DHS and ICE knowingly manipulate arrest and deportation data with the specific intent of misleading the American public with regard to the enforcement of illegal immigration in our country. ICE's claims that it has deported more illegal aliens than any time in history is false. ICE's claims that its efforts have led to the deportation of more criminal aliens is false. ICE and DHS claims that the interior and the border are more secure, likewise are false. At an alarming rate, ICE arrest and deportation numbers have plummeted since 2008. Clear evidence that interior enforcement has in large part been shut down during the last 4 years. In an attempt to conceal ICE's plummeting arrest and deportation statistics, massive numbers of Border Patrol apprehensions are being transferred to ICE to boost ICE's statistical data. Immigrants' rights groups now work with ICE and DHS and dictate the law enforcement policies within these agencies, not the United States Congress. Under the Obama administration, immigration agents can no longer arrest those who violate U.S. immigration law. Immigration agents cannot arrest an individual for entering the United States illegally. We can't arrest an individual who illegally overstays a visa. Immigration agents are prohibited from enforcing laws regarding fraudulent documents and identity theft by illegal aliens. Agents are forced to apply the DREAM Act not to children in schools, but to adult inmates in jails, releasing criminals back into communities throughout the nation, criminals who have committed felonies, who have assaulted our officers, and who prey on children. At the same time, ICE officers are punished and threatened by DHS and ICE leadership, threatened with the loss of their jobs simply because they attempt to enforce the nation's immigration laws and provide for public safety. Since the Gang of Eight has chosen to ignore law enforcement officers, I have a question that I would like to ask them publicly. Marco Rubio, Chuck Schumer, Dick Durbin, John McCain, Patrick Leahy, Lindsey Graham, Robert Menendez, Jeff Flake, Michael Bennett. As United States Senators, the representatives of the people, where have you been for the last 4 years? What have you done to prevent political appointees at ICE and DHS from ignoring the laws of Congress? What have you done to stop these same political appointees from manipulating arrest data and misleading the American public and members of Congress? What have you done to prevent dangerous criminals from being released back into American communities by the thousands? What have you done to protect America's law enforcement officers who now not only place their lives at risk to enforce our nation's laws, but their careers as well, as they struggle against political appointees who order them not to enforce the law and who order them to place the public at risk? Of course, the answer is you've done nothing. You've sat on your hands and watched it happen for 4 years. So I guess it should come as no surprise that you've done nothing in the Gang of Eight's proposed new legislation to address any of these problems. Gentlemen, we have laws right now that would be effective if senators like you would act with integrity and support law enforcement officers and our efforts to provide for public safety. I strongly urge Americans to disregard the talking points of the Gang of Eight and wait for the specific details of this legislation to become known. Unfortunately, I do not believe that the Gang of Eight is a group that we can entrust with a matter so important to the safety of American communities and the security of our nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. The next speaker will be Sheriff Sam Page, Rockingham County, North Carolina, National Sheriff's Association.
Good afternoon, Senators. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here today. My name is Sam Page. I'm Sheriff of Rockingham County, North Carolina. I am with the National Sheriff's Association. I'm Vice Chair with the Border Security and Immigration Committee. And I serve 92,000 people in Rockingham County, and I represent them. And I come to Washington and express our concerns in North Carolina, but also as a national sheriff representative, I express concerns there also. When we enact legislation in North Carolina and it deals with public safety, we have input, as Chris said. We should have input from law enforcement, the persons that are going to be enforcing the laws. And here in Congress, our lawmakers, I would expect nothing different. For them to invite and encourage us to be part of the debate, the discussion, because after all, we will be enforcing these laws. In the United States, our borders are unsecure. And as a sheriff of North Carolina who has traveled to the border more than once and seen it for myself and worked with the officials down there, I can't understand why there are representatives in Washington that can't figure it out. It's not secure. When drug trafficking cartel members are ending up in Rockingham County 2 to 3 days from the border with weapons, drugs, and money, and they're housed up in our county, that concerns me. I am a border sheriff also from North Carolina. We must secure our borders. Homeland security begins at home. That's a message I give you from the National Sheriff's Association. We must secure our borders. Number two, amnesty is amnesty. You call it what you want to call it. But the National Sheriff's Association position statement says we will not accept all out amnesty. There is a process. It's called the rule of law. I'm a 32-year veteran of law enforcement, and we need to get back to the rule of law. I thank our senators for helping us to do the right thing, but I would encourage the senators' group of 8 to engage and allow us to have opportunity to have input on this legislation that's going to affect the homeland security of this nation and on this most important issue. I thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak for Congress.
Next speaker will be Todd Garrison, Dona Ana County, New Mexico.
Thank you, gentlemen. My name is Todd Garrison. I'm the sheriff of Dona Ana County in New Mexico. I live on the border and have so for about 50 years now. I've been the sheriff for Dona Ana County for the past 8 years, and our borders are not secure. I'm currently the chair of the Southwest Border Sheriffs Coalition, and that's a representation of the sheriffs from California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. We have offered our services on a number of occasions to come down here and discuss this issue. Being that we live on the border and deal with these issues every day, we feel like we have knowledge of that. With the current bill that's been passed, it's hard to keep trusting in our federal government and on these issues, and it's really frustrating. We are public servants. We have been elected to an office to serve the public, and our concern is public safety for our counties, for our country, and that's what we want to do. I know some of the federal officers that Mr. Chris Crane that spoke a while ago with ICE, he's asking that we be allowed to do our jobs, and I ask that we allow the federal government officers on the ground to protect our borders. If we let them do their jobs with the laws that are already in place, I think we can do that. We can secure this border and then move forward with the problem at hand, which is immigration reform. I agree there's problems there, but we have to deal with it in that order. So, thank you very much.